Hey, and welcome to the Reset Podcast. Everything you need to know that your therapist probably never told you. Researched by experts, real life experiences. This is Reset. Hey, and welcome back. We're so glad you're here. We are continuing those top 10 parenting tips, so let's jump right in. Number 6, foster your child's independence.
Well, I think you have to what's getting me at their age. I think something that we're trying to do right now is implement with our 10-year-old, let's say, or 9-year-old, is you got to start doing the trash bud, right? Like, this is going to be good for you. When you start taking on roles in your life, we know, like in psychology, the more roles you have, the healthier beings, like different funnels that fall into who you are, right? And so having that role of taking out the trash once a week, let's say, for example, it's huge, right? But then as you get older, obviously that changes, and it needs to adapt or evolve. I always remember that the two things that research continues to show that every teenager wants is they want a sense of belonging, right? Like obviously they want friendships. That's why they want the phone so much. They want the social media. They just need to, man, that appetite is huge and they want to eat it all the time, right? But the second one is they keep finding out is that teenagers want autonomy. They want a sense of independence. They don't want to be told what to do. A teenager at times would prefer to do it wrong and do it alone, which parents got to recognize that. That's huge, right? Like that's when their love language is autonomy, than to actually have someone come in and help them do it correctly. And at times you got to just, I got to battle wisely, right? And so where does the independence come in? When does the independence not come in? And so depending on the age, you got to let that happen. So what does that mean as parents? We got to be okay with them making mistakes. It's like sometimes with the trash, right? Like he does the trash and sometimes it doesn't make it all the way to the curb, right? And so sometimes we don't battle that and we just then move it a little 2 feet forward to allow him to feel like he accomplished something. Or even like yesterday, for example, the kid completely put up a net, 250 feet of this netted fence on his own. Was it done perfectly? No. But every time he came back in to ask him, hey, do you need help? He's like, I got this. And it was good for us to just sit back and say, okay, it was better for him to do this, let's say imperfectly or messy, right?
Yes.
Than for us to come in and try to control the situation. So then he feels independent and then he feels that he's doing something right for us.
One of the best parenting advices I remember receiving from one of my mentors was to parent like an upside down funnel. And in the beginning, you're very tight with discipline and obedience and making sure that the rules are so established. And then the older they get, so imagine an upside down funnel, you loosen it and loosen it and loosen it. So by the time your children are teenagers, this isn't the time you're pulling in the rein. They've learned the boundaries, they've learned the disciplines and the obedience. So now you say, hey, you've been doing great. You can stay out an extra half hour, and you give them that independence. And that gives them that sense of, I'm growing up. I'm getting older. I'm owning this, part of my life. And like you say, of course, they need to make their decisions on their own and feel that independence. But we as parents still need to navigate that with them, come alongside them, teach them what they're supposed to be doing, and then allow them to make those decisions that, like we were saying, may end up being a mistake to learn from.
Well, I think about 15 years ago is when that parenting definition or role came out called the helicopter parent. It's the complete opposite, right? And so what happens is then the kid, either could feel suffocated or creates learned helplessness, or it could be causing enabling issues, codependency. I mean, there's more risk on that, right, than there is in helping your kid become independent in healthy ways. Now, here's the key, too, is so many parents want their kids to be independent on things that the kids want to be independent on. And so this is where you really got to be attuned to your child to say, what are things that my kid wants to be independent on that would be healthy for me to lean in and grow with them, right? So, for example, let's say if a teenager is just not ready to be independent on academics yet. Right? And so you're just, it's like, I'm going to lean into, again, that structure, even though you might be thinking like, well, when they go to college, it's going to be there for them. But yet they want to be independent on something else. Maybe it's more like on sports, driving, or has to do with something else. And so you got to recognize, I have to align my child's independence and lean into that and help that grow, because that's important. That's going to be easier as well than try to force him to be independent on something that maybe he doesn't want to, he's not ready for. All right, number 7 here. is be consistent. Look, we struggle with this.
It's like super easy,
we
you know, just like be consistent.
I'm pretty sure we're very consistent with inconsistency, and
So do we
know
get a
it.
prize for that?
Absolutely, and we know why. We know our time crunch. We get it. We get it, and so we're definitely going to like look. We're going to own up to it, right? But we know also that when our yes is yes and our no's are no's, this when our kids are the best. And we know when we say yes to something in the morning time and all of a sudden 2 o'clock comes and we're supposed to be doing this thing we're supposed to do, we all know how that ends up. We're tired. We want to take a nap. And the kid just feels disappointed.
Well, and I think, too, they can learn from obviously adapting to things that change. Like you're saying, we say yes, and then we're like, oh, no. So we've had to fight against, for sure, our own feelings on things. But then our kids have also had to grow and learn when we're like, listen, we said this, but we're actually wiped today. Like, we need your empathy right now. Like, we'll do this a different day. So it does teach them, obviously, like growing moments, too.
Well, I think about when it comes to, I think the difficult part of being consistent, and I know working with some of my clients is the aspect of when you give a consequence.
Correct.
And then when the consequence becomes, like a lot of my clients tell me this, I don't want to take away the car keys because that means I got to drive them everywhere. And I have other kids I got to attend to.
Yeah.
And part of
the
that,
consequence affects you.
Right. And I think that is when we have to really just say, okay, you know what? The lesson is more important than the inconvenience. And that's when we can't, because the moment you start moving the goalposts or start moving the fence, after you lay down the ground, like, the ground level or the ground rules for it, the kid's going to realize, oh, your word's not strong. It's also going to realize, okay, I'm not going to respect the consequences. I know they're fluid. I could change them at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think consistency with your yeses, yes, no's is like for us is no brainer, but also consistency was inconvenient for us when it comes to consequences. Because the bottom line, when you're inconsistent, then it's going to create what we call like an ambivalent attachment, where the kid doesn't know, can I trust you? So the kid doesn't know do I trust you during good times, hard times? Can I lean into mom when I feel sad or dad when I feel sad? Do I lean away when I'm feeling good? Like it gives them mixed signals and mixed messages, but ultimately just leads to them being honestly upset, angry, temper tantrums, mood issues, anxiety, things like that.
Also, though, I think along with that real quick, I'm not sure if this exactly goes, but stop giving empty threats. I feel like a lot of parents are like, if you continue this, you can't go to baseball practice.
Yes.
But it's like, whoa, like baseball practice is first a commitment, or, if you can't do this, and then it never happens, again, your kids are going to catch on. Mom said I can't go to the birthday party but I always end up going to the birthday party. Like the empty threats. That's again, goes back to the yes is yes and the no is no.
Well, I think that goes into perfectly with number 8, which is avoid harsh discipline. I think some of us, we do give these like big threats when we fall through on it. It's kind of like, do you remember, I think there's a Modern Family episode when the Modern Family episode had to do with, I think they took away like Christmas. Remember that one? It's like, fine, if you do this, I think it was like I forgot what it was, or they're lying or something like that. The kids were all 3 of them were lying. They refused to give up who did it. And they gave away Christmas. They took away Christmas. I think the whole episode was like, the aspect of we say we have to do it,
Yeah.
But I just think the fact is that the time and crime needs to fit. And I think for the brain of a child, which is going to like, there's going to be some limited executive functioning, is that the time and crime needs to fit, and you lose what you abuse in life. If you slam the door, you lose the door. If you abuse the video games, you lose the video games. If you abuse your phone, you lose your phone. It comes to, let's say, our kid, when it comes to leaving like his bike outside overnight, and so they lost that for 24 hours. And I think that's what it's important, is that harsh discipline can be either not taking away the right thing, right? For example, that makes no sense to them, right? Or B, taking away things for too long, right? And so it feels more like a punishment than a consequence, right? And so,
I love that. Can you explain that? Consequence versus punishment?
a
That's
times,
a really good thing to think about.
No, I think for a lot of parents, that for them to understand it is a punishment comes from a lot of times the emotional response from a parent. And they want the kid to feel the pain that they're feeling, or they want them to, they overreact and they are too just harsh, restricted, go over the top. And the kid doesn't feel like it's valid And so then they don't feel like that the choice or the behavior is being given a consequence. They feel like them as a person is being punished,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's when either it's, some harsh language that coincides with it, or that, the punishment is something that they feel like they can never get out of.
Like
Like
an
you're
over exaggeration of
100%,
it.
like you're here. Let me give you an example. It's when you punish open endedly. I mean, like, for example, it's like you're grounded until I tell you so, until you're off. Well, no, consequences need to good
Have a
consequences.
boundary, really, I
Yeah, they
guess,
have a
within
boundary
itself.
of you do this behavior for this amount of time, or you lose this for the X amount of time, right? And so, and a lot of times, punishment just really exasperates your kid. And so, if the punishment that you're doing is exasperating them, is purposely causing anger in them, then it's wrong.
And they're not learning from it. I think we forget, too, the discipline and the consequences are ultimately for them to learn and grow.
Right. And that's why the time and crime needs to be there, and kind of the aspect of you lose what you abuse, right? It's like there has to be some correlation to it. It's not perfect in all times and situations, but you can try to do it,
Yeah.
right? And really, consequences, from my point of view, I always feel like there always needs the first infraction is always grace, and no matter what the age is, we always give like this grace. And then I get this a blanket statement. There's some circumstances where it's like, okay, well, Joe, my kid did cocaine, and we're gonna give him grace. No, no. Obviously when it comes to life-threatening things like drugs, alcohol, things like that, that's a different story, right? But in general, we give grace. But then we tell them the grace one and say, hey, but if you do this again, right, here's what the consequences is going to be. So we're telling them ahead of time, right? We're expressing some ground rules here. And then the second infraction is usually like a 24-hour thing. And then the third one, then now we have a problem, right? And so it's going to be a little bit longer, and this continues, and the whole thing's either taken away, or we got to rethink what's going on.
I think it's important for us to also remember that we shouldn't be parenting for that moment. Like you had said, an emotional reaction where we just parent in that moment. We need to parent for who we want our children to be in the future. Because every choice we have when we interact with our kids, like, we're hoping their character gets better. We're hoping to raise these people who will go into the world and be awesome adults. So instead of just, giving a consequence in the moment out of anger, think about it, of what you want that consequence to be, so that you're building up character in your child.
Well, how important is it with the one before this was consistency? And so when you're consistently, let's say, giving consequences for a certain behavior, or misbehaving on something, whatever it may be, that's where behavioralism comes in, where change of behavior really does come in, because they're getting a feedback from their environment, or a relational feedback, from this case us, that they're recognizing what's wrong versus right. And ultimately that's what it's about. It's about maturity, right? And so, and we define maturity by knowing right from wrong and choosing what's right. Well, how do they know that? Well, from a young age until the kids launched out in the real world, it's really done through proper consequences from the parent.
This actually goes with number 9, which is explain your rules and decisions.
Yes.
So exactly what you're saying is, like, there is set up expectation in this family, in this home. We are clear ahead of time what is happening in any situation, circumstance, and in those, let's say, 10 commandments you have for your family. You are clear and concise about what is going to happen.
Well, I think the most practical way that we could talk about it happened an hour ago, where we're on our way to a birthday party dropping off our daughter. And the right thing to do is, on the way there, it's like, all right, honey, there's a bounce house. There's going to be fun stuff going on. So let's talk about this. There's no body slamming anyone, right? We're going to listen and respect the parents who threw this party. So they want your shoes off, take your shoes off, right? We're going to make sure that we say hi to the birthday boy, right? So we set these guidelines and rules. And if they break them, or she crosses that line, then she knows now there's going to be a feedback from us. And the feedback is going to be a consequence, right? Whether it's a matter of, you're roughhousing too much in the bounce house, or you take 5 minutes off, and so that's where we got to realize, is being proactive as parents, is to recognize situations in which the kid actually may have a temptation in some way, that they may go outside their character that we want them to, so them know ahead of time. It's like if the kid's going to go, your teenager's going to like a party, or a kickback, as the kiddos say, or a darty, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah, those no. And they're going there, just like my parents said, is you could go, But if you choose to drink or partake in smoking or doing drugs or things like that, there's going to be some major consequences. And we can't promise you that your bed's going to be here when you come back, type of thing, right? And so ahead of time, you're giving what? You're planting the seed of cause and effect in their head. And you're allowing
if I do this, then this will happen.
And so what happens is so many parents don't talk about these things in certain ways ahead of time or minutes before. The kids doesn't have a cause and effect thought. And so this is us just teaching the executive functions, which is really immature right now, right? That, hey, my choices, my behaviors either could be rewards or it's going to be consequences.
And these are definitely hard moments as a parent. I think this is the most frustrated I get when I have set the boundary, the rule, the whatever, if then statements, and your kid does it. I think it's like frustrating, heartbreaking, and like, dude, like we literally said what would happen and you still chose to do that. So, I mean, you are not alone in these frustrating things that we are talking about. This is the ideal of how we should all and would all want to be parenting.
This is a great example. Like you always teach and you always speak and you always even parent to the ideal with the knowledge of they're going to come up short. There's no perfect.
We're going to come up short.
Yeah, there's no perfect parent and there's no perfect kid. We had to start there.
Welcome to the part of the show where we talk about what we can learn from animals.
Yo, listen up. Did you know animals teach us about life? Like how to be a good husband or wife? Or maybe how to be a good parent or friend? Needless to say, lessons that will help us out in the end. So open up your heart and open up your mind to hear about which animal today that we will find.
So there's this herd of elephants. And poachers came in and killed all of the parent elephants, all the adults in this herd, and left 2 young male baby elephants. So they took them into like a animal refuge thing in Africa, and they decided to, okay, let's just keep track of these baby elephants, and they welcomed them into a new herd that they had. And so what happened was when the elephants turned, like, let's say teenage years, puberty, this green ooze just came out of their legs, and it smelled so bad. The people that worked there reported just how awful the smell was, but they didn't know why that happened. And so for the next few months, they witnessed these young male teenage elephants starting to become violent against each other, where they would actually, fight each other. They started to have an inability to get along with other animals in the animal kingdom. They actually would go and use their weight and drag certain animals in the water and drown them. They end up having an inability to get along with the new herd. Like they just couldn't get along with their family. And they started to look frail because they didn't know what to eat or where to find food. And most importantly, just didn't know how to court or even to pursue like female elephants. So they decided to bring in scientists. They have no idea what's going on here. And so scientists came in and they started trying to figure out what's happening here. And this is what they found out, which is really interesting, is that when a male elephant hits puberty, this green like ooze comes out of their legs. And what happens is that it actually warns the father. So the smell is so bad, it warns the father, and the father walks with the male elephant during puberty and teaches them the following things. Number 1, how to get along with your peers, meaning like how to control your testosterone, not get in fights, things like that. Number 2, it teaches them, well, how to get along with other animals, people that are basically different from them, right? And so how to get along other animals in the animal kingdom. Also that they learn what to eat and where to eat. Basically, the father teaches them how to be healthy and how to be strong. The dad also comes along and teaches them basically how to get along with the herd and the family and be part of it. But also the dad teaches them this, is how to use their ears to like court females, right? For mating and things like that. In many ways, the dad is teaching the son, calling him in, not calling him out, calling him into adulthood, and is teaching him how to become a man. And all I think about is this. When my own son hits puberty, right, and God gave him something called BO, right, and that BO, that body odor, is actually a sign for me as a father to walk alongside him during probably the most important years of his life, which is adolescence. And I say that because sometimes I feel like so much of pop psychology is like, this is their differentiation stage, this is their independent stage, let them have autonomy and that kind of stuff. But my belief is probably that my son needs me more now than ever. And then my job is to help him walk through life, teach him things like how I get along with other people who may be different from you. How are you going to be part of this family when you feel like you want to be pushed away, but you still have some responsibility at home? What do you eat, not eat, right? Do you eat sugar? Do you eat protein? Like, how do you go about your day about choosing how to strengthen your body, things like that? And of course, how to date, you're right? Like, all right, bud, like you got to, have a job, pay for the date, ask her out, pick her up, meet the dad, shake his hand. Basically, in so many ways, just like the elephants, is I have to call my son into adulthood. And I think it's the same thing for women, for girls and daughters, moms and daughters as well, where we, during this stage where we feel like, man, they're just pushing away, we're just going to give more space. I think that's when we got to lean in, just like the elephants. And we got to come in creative ways and create moments where we teach and call our kids into adulthood.
And now back to the show.
Well, I was thinking too. It's like last night with our one of our children had a little tantrum in public, right? And
a lot has happened in our life over the last 48 hours.
The last 24 hours have been rough. And I was thinking in which all of a sudden all these employees of this place started surrounding me and my son as he's having a meltdown of a lifetime, and they're like trying to coach me on it. And I'm like, okay, that's good. Some people, I'm like, oh, that's good. Some people giving advice. I feel like, oh my God, these people have no idea what they're talking about. And it's hard for someone in my profession not to, to like sit and remind myself, like, okay, wait, hold on. What have you been educating other people on? What do you need to do for yourself? Time to take your own advice, which I think goes perfectly for the last one, which is to treat your child with respect. And last night was about, I'm in a public place. People are witnessing this. How do I lean in with my kid and respect him, his thoughts, his emotions, his behaviors, his opinion, even if I just want to grab him by the ear and take him back to the car, right? Because those are the moments where parenting really wins. It's the hard ones. And when the kid is just, trying to figure out, like, what is my space emotionally? What is my space, physically right now? And for us to be saying, hey, we're safe for you to push away, and we're safe for you to hug. We're safe for you to get upset with, and we're safe for you to love. And I think that's important when it comes to that message of respect.
Exactly. Well, and I think we forget this as parents because we sometimes think in these terms of I'm the parent, you're the kid, but doesn't mean they're not still a human being. Like, they do deserve respect when we are disciplining, looking them in the eyes, telling them why, explaining the things, because how we treat them today is going to affect them tomorrow and so on. And I think that is something we truly forget as parents. Even last night was really hard for me, and I just wanted to act like a little 6-year-old in the moment of just being so frustrated. And so, we're going to mess up, and we look at our kids and we apologize and we move on. And yeah.
Well, I think when we do respect correctly, that our kids' thoughts, emotions, and their opinions, they will feel like that it matters to us, right? And I say that because when their thoughts, emotions, and opinions don't matter to us, they will seek it elsewhere. And that's scary as they get older, as teenagers in middle school, junior high, and high school. Some of them will seek it through opposite sex in all the wrong ways, right? Some of them will seek it through, avoidance, drugs, alcohol, vaping, chiefing, whatever they call it these days, right? But here's the thing: I want my home to be the hub of respect for them. I want my home to be a place or the hub of them feeling that their emotions and their thoughts and their heart is really desired by me and no one else. And I think we get that right, then the crucial conversations that occur later on in life, age 14, 15, 16, all the way to like age 25, right? That of really developing them, they're going to trust us for those moments. And so a lot of parenting is really trusting moments, not teaching moments, right? And then you just build up the trust in them and the equity of trust in our relationship. And as they get older, then we could come in with some wisdom and some teaching moments that are so important from them because we built that up through respect.
Yes. And I love what you always say, that kids don't care about what you know until they know how much you care. So we have to be showing them from a young age that we care about them. So then when we give them this advice or these, tools, they trust us. They believe that what we say is important because they know we care about them.
And let's go next level here. We got to hold each other accountable as parents. And I think for us, we've been trying to do more of that, is recognizing our look or that eye. We're like, either you got to take this over or
you need to leave the situation.
You leave because we're breaking
Abort
rules.
the mission.
Yeah, we're breaking rules 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, and 10 from Dr. Steinberg. So we got to implement these in some way.
But you should speak in code, like
right. Well, but
Steinberg 6. Take a lap.
Well, and I think about this. It's like the reality of it in our culture is that there's so much divorce, and so part of these 10 things are hard because it takes co-parenting for this to happen. And, it's not outside the norm to say, hey, when there's a divorce, co-parenting is very difficult. We didn't get along, let's say in this case, like as lovers or as, husband and wife, as spouses. How are we going to get along now as parents? And with us having more single people than married people in the first time in American history, I think this list becomes harder. And it really takes 2 mature adults within marriage, but even 2 mature adults within or after divorce for co-parenting to say, can we make this our 10 commandments as parenting? That what the kid gets at your house gets this at my house, right? And I can only imagine, because we know it's a struggle for us as an intact family. I can only imagine that is in those circumstances where you don't have the other parent supporting you on this. And so I think it's important that as much as we can, we do hold each other accountable, and these are battle-worthy as co-parenters or partners of raising kids.
And if you have a partner who is not willing to get on the same page, you do them as much as you can. You do 1 through 10. Sadly, it's not going to be consistent with the other parent, but know that you're doing a great job.
And I know people are like, well, I didn't take notes because I was driving. I didn't take notes because I was doing my Peloton run or whatever God knows you guys are doing these days. Is where do I find these? Where can I find this list at? Okay, so we have a little infograph, a little list thing they could get on our free resources for parenting, that we will have it on there. And it will be just the 10 scientific principles of good parenting.
We got your back.
We got your back because we get it.
So keep pushing through. Know that you're doing a great job as a parent. You are not alone. We are all in the same boat. And let's raise little humans to be these awesome adults that are loving and respectful and know that mom and dad care about them deeply.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us. For more information and other resources, visit us at theresetgroup.com and make sure to follow us at The Reset Group on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.